Evernote came under fire earlier this week when it was announced that they had an upcoming change to their privacy policy that would open users' notes up to being read by Evernote employees, all in an effort to improve its machine learning capabilities, because, everybody's getting in on this machine learning thing. Then Evernote users lost their flippin' mind, particularly because there was no way to opt out of this impending snooping. Evernote brass apparently has listened to the mountain of complaints and have now announced that the updated privacy policy will be delayed as they rework it so that users can choose to opt in, which it's kind of strange to... I guess from a business sense, it makes sense to want everything to be included on this, because the more data that's used to kind of teach, machine learning systems, the better it's going to be at understanding kind of what users are doing. But I find it strange for a service, especially a service like Evernote, where, it's a note app and people are logging everything about themselves. Is so incredibly personal, the kind of information is there. And the initial post was like, basically, you have no choice. Our employees are going to read your notes. And it was slightly less like as direct as that, but it was pretty direct. It's like, why not give an opt-in sort of method and not make it just so confrontational almost?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like a little morality play that we've seen play out so often with companies, where it's like they change the privacy policy, which they've been doing, but now we're at an age where like there are people that make it their job to read privacy policies.
Good.
And then, and promote the fact that, something has changed and everyone needs to know about it. So, none of us read that before we updated, except for, some people who were like, hey, this is bad. Let's all take a look at that. And we all see it. And then the company comes back and says, oh, you're misunderstanding. You're overreacting. It is not as bad as it seems. And then, we say, yes, it is. You said that humans would have access to our notes. And they try to explain what they meant exactly, which is like, oh, only if you, after it's opt-in, you can opt out of it. And only if, you need help, then a human would look at your notes. And then it's like people keep pushing, and then they say, oh, no, we're very sorry. We're very sorry. We did this all wrong.
We're very sorry we tried to get away with that, but obviously we cannot. So let's backtrack and apologize profusely and give you a way to get out of it. And dang it, back to the drawing board.
Yeah. So
we didn't get away with it after all.
I do not think that anyone was trying to, that Evernote's new, money, their new way of monetizing Evernote was going to be, let's figure out people's personal business secrets or blackmail them or anything like that. But it was just the fact that they just seem to be very tone deaf about what people use the product for and how they might really feel like just the very idea that someone would look like a human would be looking at the notes and people wouldn't be bothered by that. That's shocking that they didn't know that.
Yeah, well, and just assuming, when you read through that privacy policy, it's almost like they assumed that users were going to be okay with it. And I don't know. There are certain services, I'm guessing that this probably happens in a lot of services that we use, and it just either doesn't make the news, or maybe they word their privacy policy in such a way that it's not as obvious or whatever. So maybe it happens far and wide amongst all the services that we use. But in particular, docs apps or apps where you're writing a lot of notes and all sorts of things, like there's so much intention. Probability that a lot of the stuff that you're putting in there is pretty darn personal stuff. And, people aren't necessarily going to be that excited about opening up their diary to employees of the company, because you don't really know where that ends. Now, Evernote did say, it was going to be anonymized and censored and everything. It was just to get kind of the important information, but not associated directly with the person who posted it. But that would help us, to train these machine learning systems with the kind of information that they will be running on in the future. But I think it's cold comfort.
Yeah, and if you're talking, and they also said that these would be only highly trained employees.
Yeah,
that would
right.
Look at them.
Security
and,
training. Yep.
Right, and so we know what happened just this earlier this week with Uber. Uber employees had access to be able to use that location information to stalk ex-wives and ex-husbands. And so, are we going to just trust generally people? I don't know. But I just think that they misunderstood, because I almost think like I'd be okay. Like I have an idea that Google, uses my email to give me ads and does keyword searches and things like that. And I almost don't mind. Like, I feel like my notes are much more personal than email. Like, I assume when I send an email that someone could forward it at any point. It could get in the hands of anyone, but I never assume that with any of my notes. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people, this might be too late for Evernote. Like, they're backing up because a lot of people are just like, I don't want to use this anymore. A lot of people pay for the premium version of Evernote and just were looking for other ways. And even, the people ask me on Twitter, like, what else do you recommend? And I was like, I use Google Keep. And, it's like Google's not famous for its privacy policy, but they would never say like, some humans are going to be looking at your notes that you're keeping in Keep. Like that's something I feel that they would never do.
Mm-hmm.